Let's catch up now with Shadow Home Affairs Minister James Paterson, who joins us from Sydney. Campaign spokesperson also, I should mention. James, thanks for joining us. It must be pretty horrible to be a campaign spokesperson when your leader has to backflip on such a central policy. Why has Peter Dutton decided to backflip on the working from home promise simply because Labor have told lies about it?
Chris, it's a privilege and an honour to be campaign spokesman as part of Peter Dutton's team because he's got a plan to get our country back on track. And the truth is, Chris, as you know, in your long media career, you've had some interludes working in politics. Politicians and political parties don't always get it right, and there's a couple of options when that happens. You can persist and continue to pursue your policy in the face of the feedback and the evidence that you received, or you can own up to it, take responsibility and change course. And that's what Peter Dutton has done today, and I think that reflects very well on him. He is a leader who will listen, who will respond, who understands the challenges facing Australians and will act on those. Unlike our competitor, the Prime Minister, who's never got anything wrong in his entire life, has never conceded any error, is a perfect Prime Minister, and I think Australians are seeing through that.
Yeah, but your policy was essentially that there's too many public servants in Canberra who are not working at the office, not turning up at the office, working entirely from home. This is consistent with the New South Wales Labor Premier Chris Minns, who says public servants need to get back to the office. It's not a one-size-fits-all, but they need to return the onus to turning up at the office. But it sounds like Peter Dutton still believes in that. The coalition still believes that's the right policy. But because Labor have tried to turn it into a broader assault against working from home everywhere, you're just giving up the fight.
Well, you're certainly right that Labor did weaponise this and was running a baseless scare campaign that this would somehow affect workers in private industry when it was never envisaged to. As you said, it was correctly only aimed at Canberra-based public servants. But the truth is, Chris, that can be managed sensibly by management within the departments on a case-by-case. If there are employees individually who are taking the mickey, as we've heard some stories of, that can be managed. It doesn't need a public service-wide policy requiring everyone to be back in the office, because the truth is that people can work efficiently, flexibly. There are some people who are highly productive at home or in a hybrid environment where they come into the workplace sometimes and they work from home, and we don't want to stand in the way of that.
All right, we now, in the middle of the election campaign, are in incredibly uncertain global economic terms, thanks to Donald Trump. His imposition of tariffs right across the board have actually triggered this dramatic response, trillions of dollars shed off global markets, increasing the potential for a US recession, possibly a global recession. This is the last thing you need in the middle of the campaign, isn't it?
Well, Chris, we already knew that we were in an uncertain strategic environment, but we're now in a very uncertain economic climate. And the question that Australians will have to answer in 2 weeks' time with early voting, or 4 weeks' time if they wait till election day, is who do they trust to help navigate this uncertain world? Do they want a strong leader like Peter Dutton, who's worked as Assistant Treasurer to Peter Costello in the Howard government, who's been a successful Minister for Home Affairs and Minister for Defence? Or do they want a weak Prime Minister like Anthony Albanese, who's caused nothing but economic pain over the last 3 years with his cost of living crisis, and who is weak and not across the details on major national security issues, whether it's the People's Liberation Army Navy's live firing exercises in the Tasman Sea, whether it's a Chinese research vessel circumnavigating Australia, and whether or not it's the Border Force or the Defence Force that's tracking them, or indeed whether or not it is the Port of Darwin, where he makes a rushed announcement without the details and can't answer basic questions.
Yeah, well, my next question was going to be about Darwin. It is extraordinary. I've called out Anthony Albanese for his absolute weakness over those live firing exercises, where he was actually making excuses for China rather than challenging it. He had a similar disposition when it came to the research vessel or the spy ship. Yet he's followed the coalition lead on the Port of Darwin. What are you saying he's got wrong about that decision?
Well, if you listen to the interview that he conducted on Friday afternoon with ABC Darwin, when he got wind that we were about to make an announcement on this the next morning and he dialed in a hurry, it is an extraordinary interview. It is an incoherent interview. And even if you haven't listened to that, you could have seen his press conference over the weekend, where he was peppered with questions about this from journalists, entirely reasonable questions like, when and how did you come to this decision? Why have you made this decision? What are some of the details around it? He was totally and utterly incapable of answering any of those questions. It couldn't have instilled confidence in anyone watching it. And I think it showed, as the Prime Minister himself said, for him this was a quote-unquote political decision and this is about politics, whereas for Peter Dutton and the Coalition, this is about the national interest. This is about national security. We've said very clearly that it was a mistake for this lease to have been entered into with the Landbridge Group, and we're going to fix that mistake. We're going to make sure it returns to an Australian government-approved operator.